Welcome back to the Fuel Your Legacy podcast. Each week, we expose the faulty foundational mindsets of the past and rebuild a newer, stronger foundation essential in creating your meaningful legacy. We've got a lot of work to do, so let's get started. As much as you like this podcast, I'm certain that you're going to love the book that I just released on Amazon, Fuel Your Legacy, The 9 Pillars to Build a Meaningful Legacy. I wrote this to share with you the experiences that I had while I was identifying my identity, how I began to create my meaningful legacy, and how you can create yours. You're going to find this book on Kindle, Amazon, and our website, samknickerbocker.com. Welcome back to the Fuel Your Legacy podcast. And as always, we are discussing how we can help you fuel your legacy. And I bring on some of the best guests that I can find, people who have really not just accomplished some great feats themselves as far as creating legacy, but also have helped other people create legacy. So with that, today we're actually going to have Christine Perakis on, and she's just phenomenal what she's done. She's been a boat captain, speaker, best-selling author, really specializes in helping businesses go from like zero or wherever you're at. Hopefully you're more than zero right now, but up to 7 figures. And she's just considered kind of the growth architect. She has a few books out there, one that's about to be published, and she'll get to share more about that with us. But yeah, just super excited to have her on here and teach how her legacy, what she's doing for her legacy and how she can help you really accomplish a stellar income out of sharing your legacy. So with that introduction, Christine, go ahead and share just a little bit more about who you are, where you came from, how you found your passion, and why you've decided to express yourself in this manner in the marketplace.
Well, thank you so much, Sam. And I love what you're doing. I think that it's the most important work there is. And in every working relationship I have with clients, it's a starting point. And I'm always shocked at how little attention people give to legacy. You know, we all get whipped around by life. It's just the nature of the beast. The world is chaos and it's constantly moving and changing. And if we don't have that clear connection to why we're here and what our purpose is, then we're going to get whipped around. All the much more difficult challenges are going to knock us off our feet. And, I have to tell you, I'm one of those people that it's not that I never had a clear understanding. I've been very goal-oriented since I was a child, which is how I ended up being a boat captain, which is a story for a little bit in a few minutes. But it's that I needed to get knocked down a number of times to really get myself back on track and the thread that I really want to be on, and to be able to create from this place of freedom from what the world tells me I should be doing and how I should be working, which means bucking up against the pressure to do things a certain way. That's just me. We all have something, that we are here to give, that the world is waiting for. And if we don't take the time to figure out what that is and we don't go for it consciously, we're going to get knocked down a lot until we finally get it. So a big turning point for me, well, I've had 100 of them, right, in my lifetime. But one of the pivotal times in my career, I went to law school, I got an MBA, and, I had this desire to fill my toolbox with some good tools. And I knew if I did it straight through school, I'd have a good tool chest that I could go out into business and be armed with as much knowledge as I could be in terms of my education. So I put those things in place on a level for me that I understood I was maximizing my time. So one of my legacies is to always maximize every experience. So if I'm going to get myself knocked down a bunch of times, to be knocked over the head to get the message of whatever pivot I need to make, I'm going to make the most of that. So from the first time, that was about 2 years into my law practice for a big New York law firm, making a very cushy figure. That would have turned into golden handcuffs for me. I could see it even then as a young person. how having a great job with great pay, with prestige, I would walk into a room, I was the lawyer in the room, people would listen to me, my hourly rate was, high, it was expensive, and I would never have been free if I had not had a major car accident that forced me to not be able to work for a couple of months and then only part-time for a couple more months, where I really had to do some soul searching and figure out, am I going to get on the path that I'm destined for, which was to be an entrepreneur and to be in the entertainment industry and to be of service to others in a more full way, which is me as a business person and a business advisor, a strategic advisor for small business and startups, and to be able to utilize the 360-degree knowledge and information and expertise and experience and passions that I have to give people the support they need to get off the ground, whatever it is they're doing. And so I needed that kick out of the law firm, let's just call it, to be able to say, oh, I got to operate without a safety net so that I can tread a path that other entrepreneurs are going to be on for themselves. So that's the thing that, and then I'll fast forward a little bit to my most recent startup, because I've had 10 businesses on my own and with partners. And my most recent startup was a 100% equity funded company. My partner and I emptied our bank accounts and bootstrapped our way to a $10 million a year business in 4 years with 160 employees. And that's the kind of lack of safety net, what it takes to be able to grow that big. And I didn't ever feel like there was somebody in my corner who really understood how to support me. So, I'm a lawyer, I'm a business advisor, I'm a COO at this point, and a de facto CFO because I'm good with numbers. And I never felt that there was someone who could be in my corner who had tread the path I'd been on. So after selling that business, I took some time off. I went out and got my captain's license as a boat captain because I've been a lifelong sailor, and my dream since I was a child was to sail around the world. So the world had to catch up to me by inventing the internet and making it possible to work from anywhere in the world, including a boat in the middle of the ocean. And so I always wanted to sail around the world, so I got my license so that I could have mastery on those skills that one needs when one is crossing oceans. And then I was able to move to the Caribbean for a time. And that's the kind of thing that you wouldn't be able to. So I wanted to be able to give support. And that's what I defined my life to be after selling my last business, was to become the person that I didn't have available to me when I was starting, growing, and expanding my businesses, that I didn't feel there was someone who understood the path that I was on. It can be very lonely as an entrepreneur when you take the safety net out from underneath you and really take that leap. It requires, a sense of certitude, a lot of faith, a lot of commitment, that legacy being clearly defined so you know why you're doing what you're doing, and you've got a solid foundation to hang on to when there's chaos all around you. And, that's what I didn't feel. I had to find that inside myself. I didn't have somebody to help remind me. I didn't have a Sam Knickerbocker teaching me how to really identify and clarify and stay on legacy at all times and for the company. So that was really important. And then while I was down in the Caribbean, a few years in, I had the most powerful hurricane in the Atlantic basin. It took a direct hit over my house, literally. Came straight through my island, right over where my house was, blew the roof off my house, and left me buried alive for almost 24 hours alone. And with no plan, no hope of rescue, no idea who had survived and what was left of my island and the people around me. Didn't know my community, had no way of communicating with people, my neighbors, my friends, or anybody abroad to come help me. And I realized that I once again placed myself in that position of being alone with a monumental task of survival. My life was literally at stake. And that's, again, another juncture, like that early car accident I had, where I realized even more fully just how important it is to build community, to make sure that you surround yourself with the people and the tools and resources, and through the experience of not only surviving the storms itself, and 2 weeks later a second category 5, was the aftermath of living through no electricity, no running water, no telecoms, no cooking gas, and having to figure out how to survive, not being able to reach friends for almost 2 weeks, and not being, having no access to resources and being stuck on a remote island. And, Paradise really turned for a while there. And I learned some very important lessons in that process, which I've turned into my next book. That's what you were talking about, The Resilient Leader. And it's life-changing strategies that help anyone overcome the turmoil of today and the uncertainty of tomorrow. And I've come up with my 7 barometers of resilience that helped me navigate that experience and survive in the aftermath, but also to come through thriving. And so because I'm so clear about what I'm here to do, and taking an experience like the car accident or the hurricanes and making the most out of it, I was literally, while the winds were howling and my shelter was destroyed, and the winds literally are coming inside my shelter. I don't know what's left of what's outside, and I can't take care of myself other than to pick up a pen and piece of paper and start writing. What can I learn from this experience? What did I do right? What mistakes did I make? What will I remember forever that I will not, that would help me get through this next storm? Because the one thing I'm certain of, and I've experienced in my life before the hurricanes, and I know I will again, there will always be another storm. So, again, I'm dedicating my life to making sure that my clients, my people, my audiences, my readers, everybody has the tools to weather any storm in life or business.
That is incredible. Thank you so much for sharing your story and kind of highlighting the different parts. I just think there's so much about you can learn about a person when you hear about the times that they've overcome their trials, times that they've overcome their challenges, and then also what does true grit mean for an entrepreneur? What does it mean to have to buckle down and say, we are going to go for it regardless of circumstances around us. I have tons of notes here, so I'm excited to dive into some of these and just kind of see where we go with it. But one thing that I think that happens to everybody at some point in their life that she said is you're going to get knocked down. You almost have to get knocked down a bunch of times before you finally decide that if you're going to keep getting knocked down, you're going to do it for something that you love rather than for somebody else's dream. Right?
Oh, 100%, right?
Yeah, I mean,
you're going to turn that knockdown into something that fuels you to keep following your dream, or to make that dream more clear or bigger, whatever it takes.
Yeah, exactly. And making sure that you're doing that. Sometimes it's hard because, as you mentioned, you got comfortable or you could have gotten comfortable at that law firm. And sometimes you can get comfortable just building somebody else's dream because, well, it's good enough for you and it gives you the ability and the income, whatever, to have a great life. But a great life isn't always just financially a great life. A great life has so much more to do with fulfillment. And that's really why we're talking about legacy, and why we're having Christine on here, because legacy ultimately becomes more important than the supposed benefit of security in a business. More important than the supposed security is the legacy that you're building and how you prepare for that. Now, I'm curious how you went back to MBA school, you went to law school. How much of that do you feel was necessary for you to have come out and become the entrepreneur that you are?
Well, you know what? I think that when I was so young and coming out of school, I didn't have personally just a sense of confidence that I had what it took. And I like the idea of when I'm passionate about something, and this is true about a number of things. I can give you a laundry list of the things I'm certified and have taught: yoga, skiing, sailing, business growth courses online. I've taught PhD students. My version of pursuing my passion is mastery to be able to teach, because I'm a natural teacher. So, that's one of the ways that I go about that. And it was, so I think that I went after the law degree and the graduate degree so that I could have full mastery to become a business person, to become an entrepreneur. It was about mastery. And, the same way that I became a certified yoga teacher, I probably didn't need to go through a teacher training course or, a certified licensed boat captain, a certified ski instructor. These are things that, for me, was a deep dive of knowledge so that I had more to share in addition to just my passion and enthusiasm to help others. So in the same way, I think those things, the education, and I still, the courses I've taken, the study that I've done, and all that is all to add value so that I continue to be a student, so that when I'm teaching, when I'm sharing, when I'm guiding, when I'm supporting, I have more and more to give. Because really, I'm just all about service and how can I help? And so in order to do that effectively, in order to be the best business advisor on the sidelines, one has to keep doing their work. And that's how you stay relevant as far as I'm concerned. The people who stop learning, they're dead in the water. They will not be excellent at what they do. They can only grow so much if they don't realize there's more and more. And I'm not talking about taking every webinar that's available online, because you could do that all day long, but really picking and choosing and staying in a constant learning. And that can come from a number of different prongs, right? So, I will study areas in spirituality and mindset and business growth, in financial advising. There's all kinds of prongs that are relevant to the entrepreneur. And so you don't have to stay in marketing, right? There's 100,000 online marketing courses of how to market your own business. And, you have to limit so that you stay on point and you keep moving your business forward. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm curious as well with that. There's something that I've seen, and I don't know when or how this worked for you. Something that she's mentioned over and over and over and over, which is kind of good, what I feel that maybe might be the main focus of this conversation, is her desire to chase mastery, not just get okay at something, not just get sufficient at something, but to really chase, how can I become masterful at this, and walk out with whatever my interest is, walk out with a certification of some sort, go through my interest as if I was going to create income or be able to add the most value to others. And so many people in life, they just are halfway going through life, just getting good enough to pass, but not really excel at it. And the other side to that, that's specifically for the listener here, is if you have a dream, if you have something that you want to do, but you're like, I just don't know how to make money out of it. One of the best ways, this is a simple, it's not even necessarily creating money, but it is at the same time, because you're saving yourself on taxes, is if you simply turn whatever your interest is into a business, right? If you're going to go want to learn how to ski, go get to the point where you could teach somebody how to ski and say, look, this is business research. I could go do something like this. Now, all of that time and effort that you're putting into learning whatever object or skill it is, that can at least be a tax write-off. And so now you've saved yourself 30% of the cost of doing that activity. So learning how to maximize whatever it is you're doing, whatever your interest is, and turning it into a legacy is crucial, I would say. I'm curious what your thoughts are on that, Christine.
Oh, no, I love that. I was thinking about, my skiing and I was a passionate skier. I'm a passionate sailor. I do these activities for fun and pleasure, and I've been paid at them. And I have these courses, education that I do. So yeah, it's fantastic. I spent a summer right after I got my boat captain's license. I had sold my business. I had this time. I'd been wanting to do it for years, but never had the time to focus on it. So I finally did. I had time, money, and motivation, right? Perfect trifecta. And I got my license, and I got a job immediately driving boats for Hornblower, which is the ferry service that operates in the two coasts and all over the world, frankly. And I was driving water taxis, and I punched a clock every single day, punching that clock, going in and out of my job, sitting there on the water all day long, interacting with people. I was never happier for every minute of my job. And running my own business of business advisory and strategic advising, I love the work that I do and I love the people, but I don't always love the activities because I have to run it myself, right? So as a job, as a boat captain, I was punching a clock for my company. So it was a very different experience. It was completely freeing. But yeah, there was nothing more joyful than being able to perform at that level. And I did so because I had gone to the mastery of that and I was able to use that skill and sell it for a job.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that the way you just phrased that is I gained a skill and I was willing to sell it, or I was able to sell it for a job. So many people, they go into a job and this creates a lot of imposter syndrome or mindset is they go into a job interview and they're thinking, man, I sure hope I get this job. I sure hope that this person will pay me more than I think I'm worth. And the difference is from somebody who has an entrepreneur mindset, they could still go work for somebody else. They could still go get an hourly job or a salary job or whatever, but they don't think of it like I'm going to go work and hopefully I'm getting paid more than I think I'm worth. They think, okay, I'm going to go sell my services to this employer and they're going to pay me what I think I'm worth. And just that simple mindset shift of I'm going to sell my skills to this employer rather than this guy's going to employ me to fulfill a role. Just a simple mindset shift completely alters the confidence level that somebody can have while fulfilling their role.
Well, I 100% agree with you. And I've gone a step farther, even more in my awareness lately because of, having had such a survival experience and really having the bottom drop out when you lose everything and you're basically restarting, you really take stock, and so what I found that even beyond that is when your focus is entirely to be of service, to bring value, I'm going to be the best at, and I'm going to do the most I can with every person I meet that has a resonance for me or needs something or is going to come into my universe, my office, wherever my space, I am going to be of service, then the value comes with it. And we get paid what we deserve, and people are thrilled to do it. They can't wait to do it. And we don't think that way. We think in the world, and the whole culture is designed opposite of that, which is you don't have enough money, there isn't enough for you, you've got to, hustle and try to get as much as you can, and don't worry about if they use your product, just sell it and take money, and there's never enough in that mindset. But if you realize that you're here to bring value to others and you actually have enough value, more than enough value, and you want to be of service as your primary focus, the money comes. I believe in that 100% with all my being.
Yeah, I 100% agree as well. I do actually one of my whole webinars that I do, and you can find on my website at samknickerbocker.com, but it's called the Legacy Blueprint webinar, and I subtitled that you are worthy because so many people, they don't feel worthy of the value that they're offering. But I think I would label it value exchange, understanding that money is just a number that we put on the value exchange. And if you focus on how can I add as much value, the natural reaction to you adding non-monetary value exchange is monetary value exchange. Just
exactly,
and you're getting it back.
Yeah.
So there's another thing that I want to hear your thoughts on, because you've had multiple of these, and this is I would call it just a pattern interrupt, right? You had these pattern interrupt. You were at the whole law firm. You had a pattern interrupt. There was an accident. You maybe had a business, and then another pattern interrupt. You were down on an island, and then another pattern interrupt of this what I would consider a horrific experience, but I don't know how you classify it in your mind. Terrifying at least.
Yes.
You wouldn't wish it on your worst enemy, right? But what is the value, if you could value a pattern interrupt? What's the value of having a pattern interrupt? And do you think that it's something that you can create, or does it have to come upon you naturally?
Well, I've had this philosophical discussion with people who are wise and who I respect, and I say, is it possible to change with willingly? When things are going well, are we capable of growth? And there are those who would say absolutely not. So I can tell you for myself, I'm a person who needs to be kicked out the door, right? I don't go running willingly towards change, even when I know it's not good enough good for me to be where I'm at. So I'll give you a quick example is, my forte is helping people grow their businesses. And because I'm so I have multi talents, discipline, have mastery over people, my clients have invited me into their businesses to, given me equity and good pay and asked me to be a C-suite executive or a managing partner in their businesses. And that's some of how I've grown to own 10 businesses. And I didn't not at those in the earlier days have the self-awareness that what I can do for you has a limited shelf life. I can come in, I can do this for a few years, I'll get you set up this way, and then we have to have an exit strategy from the outset and forward, because I need to keep doing this for other people. So that's the kind of self-awareness that that can lead to, or lack of self-awareness, I should say, that can lead to that disruptive change that what'd you call it? A pattern disrupt?
Yeah, pattern disrupt, pattern interrupt.
Okay. I love that expression. And, so you end up doing things the hard way. So I have, I gave you the examples of two things I did not control. The car accident was not my fault, and the storm that was an act of God, nature. And in between have been plenty of other, what I call category 5 events, right? Starting a business is a cat 5. Having a child can be a category 5 experience. These huge, massive storms in our lives. And, I've created those by not having enough clarity about what is best for me when I'm having these conversations, because I want to help. And so I'm willing to I have been in the past willing to sacrifice what I'm here to do so I can make sure that my client's business is going to be as fully excel as it can be, maxed out in its potential. And so those are the kinds of things that we do, I think, somewhat self-inflicted, right? When we're not aware enough about who we are and how we're here to serve and what's the best lane for ourselves. And also, I don't think that we keep growing and evolving when things are just great. I talked about that at my law firm job. If I was making a 6-figure income, what would I change about that? I've had businesses where I've made multi-6 figures. I've been, equity partner, and those again would be golden handcuffs. Something has to make that shift so that I can go up level myself as a business, service provider, as a person who's trying to reach my potential while I'm still alive.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's an interesting. I thought a lot about it because there's coaches, and I would say to one degree or another, this is maybe Tony Robbins' main value add. And not that, and he has a lot of value adds, but his UPW, like Unleash the Power Within seminars, or these Date with Destiny seminars, they have the ability to serve as a pattern interrupt. And just by really almost forcing you into a deep, deep, deep analysis of who you are, where you are, what you're doing, and how you're moving forward. And so I just wondered what you thought the value of that would be, because I think if anybody could go through that big of a pattern interrupt and come out of it the way that you came out of it, right? Would that be worth a few $100,000, right? You've made more than that because of your pattern interrupt. And so what's the value if you were to go pay for another pattern interrupt to get you from where you're at to 10x your business again? What would you pay for that?
Well, I certainly would, and I have, whether I've had the money or not. I've dug deep, I've scraped and scratched my way to get whatever I needed, because I would spend anything to know that I was going to maximize my potential and to keep growing. And, the people I respect most, and, Tony Robbins is an easy one, right? Because most of us buy into his value, and most of us are not Tony Robbins, right?
Right.
And so it's our jobs to stand for the value that we have and not be afraid. I think that a lot of people fear asking for an exchange of that value, right? You talked about it earlier, being not feeling worthy. Tony Robbins doesn't hesitate to have $100,000 program. Richard Branson hosts people on his island, not even one-on-one, for $100,000. You could pay that to go to his island with a group. And, just getting yourself to that level where you know your worth and you can ask people and keep up leveling yourself, that takes something. And, so it's a pattern disrupt for the provider, for the business person, and those people who are going to do whatever it takes when they see something they know they need. Those are the kinds of people you want to work with.
Sure.
Right? I mean, my clients are historically, someone asked me yesterday, who are the people that you like to work with? And, I can pick and choose because my time is precious, it's limited, and I want to make sure that I can make an impact. So my ideal clients are people who have already been successful at other things, that they are hungry, that they have big vision and they're creative, and they just don't know how to harness all of that energy. Like harnessing the power of the storm, right? That's my gift. What I did with the hurricanes and what I do for entrepreneurs. And so, those kinds of people will do whatever it takes, including putting someone in their corner that they know is going to make it a whole lot easier, more, faster, more efficient than if they were doing it by themselves. We don't have to do it the hard way. And yet, 40% of our population is lonely. They have no one to talk to. Millennials, it's tragic to me. These young people who have no friends, the numbers are staggering, where we're all trying to function alone next to our computer screens, I guess. And that's one of the biggest lessons I learned about being alone myself. I didn't even think I was one of them, right? And I'm sure 90% of those 40% don't think of themselves that way either, because they have hundreds of social media friends, and we're in touch all the time with our screens and we're sharing. But the truth is, when you're buried alive, who's going to come for you? And buried alive could just be, I don't know how to make payroll, or I don't know how I'm going to pay rent, or I want to quit my job and I'd start a business, but I'm afraid. Those are all situations where we need support. Shouldn't have to do that alone.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that it's interesting when you mentioned some of these people who are charging $100,000 for that pattern interrupt. And I wonder how much they're charging that because that's what they think they're worth, and how many people are charging that because that's what they think the people that they're charging it to are worth. As in, for me, and this kind of goes into that question, how much do I really need to believe in myself? Do I believe that I'm worth $100,000 worth of transformation, or do I believe I'm only worth $10,000 worth of transformation? And based on what I believe I'm worth is how much I'm willing to pay for a transformation.
Yeah, I like that, because what I think that, I was thinking about it first of, we don't believe that we're going to get tenfold back, right? But, if I gave you $10,000 or $100,000, am I going to get $1 million back? And Tony Robbins convinces people that they will get their 10x return.
Out of themselves, which is cool.
What's that?
I said he convinces them that they're going to get their 10x return out of themselves. Not that he's going to give them 10x return, but that they're going to find 10x return within themselves.
Exactly. And that's our job as leaders and service providers, is to be able to help people understand that, and it's that within them, if they can believe that they're capable of it, they would give everything to it. And that's the piece that's missing if you're not willing, is that you don't believe it. That's what you're touching on, and I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, and this kind of leads into the next thing I want you to go a little bit more depth into, and that you mentioned when you're telling your story, is you have basically in all these areas, you've been attempting to become the person that you wish you had when you were going through your struggles, right? So you've created your business, you've structured your legacy around helping a past version of yourself. And so many people that I've talked to in the past, especially when I sit down and talk about their finance, I talk about, hey, where are they going? What's their legacy? I think, man, I just don't know anything. I think, well, what have you already accomplished? If you could go back and wish you had a guide for whatever, what do you wish you had a guide for in your life? And just focus on, hey, what have you already accomplished that you could help somebody else accomplish, um, with a complete intention of serving and loving and helping a past version of yourself. So how important do you think it is that you know who that past version of yourself is that you're helping?
Oh, I think it's everything, right? Because who is our ideal client, right? That's everybody struggles with that. If it was easy, we'd all be able to do it. And the fact is, it can be easy because we are who we're here to serve, right? We know ourselves best. If we were creating an avatar for who our ideal client is, we really just have to dig in and go deep inside. What are our fears and frustrations, wants and desires, right? And, the ideas we come up with when we want to start a business, they're coming through us. So it's a need that we've identified, usually because, so whatever the business is, whatever the product or service might be, it's coming from inside. So we're serving a need we perceive. So all we have to do is really turn inside and figure out our ideal client through ourselves, just like you described. And so I always talk to people about that. You know what you're gifted at because of what you need.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm gonna throw a little wrench in here. I want to hear your thoughts on this. So people, because I will say this, that you're serving a past version of yourself, but then my primary clientele, like the probably more than 50% of who I serve from a clientele perspective, is a divorced single mom, 35 to 45 years old, who has rebuilt her life after divorce from being either bankrupt or very, very not financially independent to becoming very financially independent from a security perspective, but lacking fulfillment in the creation of her wealth. So that's like my ideal client. But I'm not a woman. I only have two kids. I'm not 35 to 45 years old. So then people say, well, Sam, you're not really following your own advice of helping your past self. So how important is it for you to be the identical of your past self, or for you to have gone through the same mental struggles as your past self?
Well, I think that it's more the latter, right? Because even if you haven't been a divorced single mom, right? I'm guessing.
No, I haven't. Not that I know of anyways.
But you understand the hunger and the need to figure out, why am I here, and how to be able to create something lasting, right? You have the same goals. So you can understand, outside of the physical, demographic, that you have some commonalities, right? And you've been just smart about identifying a need in the marketplace too, but you can understand the mindset of somebody who needs to take care of their family and create something lasting and be able to have financial independence. Those are things that you understand really well, and you're clever enough to be able to go to the category of people who need it the most, who need what you have, and a level of empathy that you have, which is so obvious that you're that person for them.
Yeah, that's
so. It's not a literal, right? I'm going to go out and look for people with curly hair, that kind of thing. But it's finding the commonalities, right? Where's there a resonance?
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that. I wanted it to come from you, because I think that's what's. I believe that's the truth, and I believe that it's not about finding your identical past self. It's about finding the people who have had your past challenges, either mindset, emotionally, physically, whatever that may be, and that might be a wide variety of what that demographic really comes out as. And there's a variety of ways you can. That's not the right word. Demography. I don't think that's a word. There's a variety of ways how you can determine your demographic for your business. I choose in my business, Fuel Your Legacy, to create my demographic based off of somebody's mental processes and uh, emotional journey through life. There are some people, though, their whole business is based off of a physical demographic or a geographical demographic. And so understanding how are you choosing your demographic, and then that will help you identify exactly what type of clients you're best serving as well, I think.
Well, and if you stick to those superficial, I'll dare call them, those physical attributes, then how much of an impact are you ever really going to make? Then everybody that you're targeting is a commodity. You're selling gum at the convenience store, right? Or your plumbing services. It's something that people need, or maybe it's an impulse purchase they want, but it's not making a lasting impact. As soon as the flavor's gone out, you're throwing it out. As soon as the toilet's running again, you're not thinking about plumbing. So if you want to make a difference in the world, and I think more and more people these days are asking for that because, what else is there, right? The climate, things are going awry, there's chaos in the world. We've got to be able to have some reason to get up in the morning, and having purpose that's long lasting and leaving something behind is the only reason I can see. So to be able to do that, you have to go deeper.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. So, and maybe you already answered this, but what do you feel like the moment was? Because in my experience, and just to kind of give some context here, in my experience, we have very few moments in life that are actually like really, really deeply emotionally, from an energy perspective, like a jolt in our body. And then, and those moments, they last for maybe, if we're really saying a long time, probably 3 seconds. And then after we have those emotional things, we switch into, okay, how am I going to act based on this emotion? And so maybe that's like a divorce, finding the initial, finding out you're divorced, finding out your child died, finding out you're having a baby, whatever it is, being buried under a house. The initial, like, oh my gosh, the realization that I'm buried under a house and nobody's coming to help me. But then after that, you switch into, okay, well, what am I going to do about it? So what was that initial moment, if you can remember back that far, what was that initial moment when you decided, I want to build a legacy because of, like, what was that initial story that created that moment in your eye?
So, both of those stories that I told in the beginning were triggers like that for me. And what I think that the more recent one is the more fresh in terms of my memory of it and the experience in my body. I can still feel it and remember, and they're actually the same. And it was that moment when I realized I was trapped, or I'm fired from my job, or whatever. It's that moment of terror. You're really facing terror in the face. It's death. And losing a job, or losing a partner, or losing a CFO. There are numbers of junctures we have where it's sheer terror. And that's the moment when you decide, am I going to be killed by this, or am I going to turn it into something? And that's where you have nothing to lose. So, I take action one step at a time from that place so that I don't get buried forever and I'm not lost.
Yeah.
Meaning I lose my career, I can't pick myself back up, I'm, wait for government assistance or whatever the thing, that I'm going to take this in my hands, because the alternative is pure death. And that may be literal, like it wasn't, potentially in the hurricanes, or it just may be, figurative, but it feels like death, and it can feel the same. And that's why I call it category 5.
Yeah, no, I love that, because I think that each of us have been given a gift or I love the way they say it in The Dream Giver by Bruce Wilkinson, but you've been given a feather, you've been given a desire or that inclination, hey, I can go build something. And everybody has that opportunity. And if we don't take heed of it, if we don't act on that at some point, it will die. And maybe it's not your physical death, but it could be the death of your dreams if you don't choose to act on it. And sometimes these will keep rotating, and they'll keep calling you, keep calling you, keep calling you, keep calling you. And eventually, I hope, I sincerely hope that you get to a point where you, in your soul, at whoever's listening to this, right, in your soul, that you feel, that this is do or die. If I don't fulfill this calling that I keep having, then I will be like spiritually or emotionally dead. And that jars you out of the complacency of life that we all get stuck in sometimes, and forces you into, through deep pattern interruption, into fulfilling your purpose, fulfilling your life, and sharing your light and joy and heart with the world.
Absolutely. I when I came back from the hurricanes back to the mainland, and I was sitting with somebody who had been a journalist and covered war-torn regions, and she said, because I was in shell shock, I didn't even know how long it was going to be before I was really grounded in and self-aware again. But she said that refugees, when they're sitting amidst the rubble, there are people who are just sit in their, what's left of their homes and stare out, waiting, hoping somebody will come. And so often nobody does. And that's what we do if we don't take matters into our own hands. If we don't say, no, I'm not going to just sit here, I'm going to get up and just do the next thing that's in front of me and take one step at a time. And that's what I mean by having nothing to lose. You take a step, it can't be worse. Any step you take, anything forward, like when I realized I was trapped and there was no way I had any idea how I was going to get out and who could come for me, there's something I can do. I can get a piece of paper out and start writing. I can, use a flashlight and start taking notes and make this have meaning for me. So we all have that capability when we're immobilized and we don't know to make that choice. Do I sit here and wait for someone to come who may never show up, and then ultimately will always be a victim to that storm or that rubble, or never be anybody who can take charge of their lives? Or am I going to be someone who takes the next step and moves off the porch, out of the rubble, into a life?
I love it, man. I'm so glad that you are sharing your expertise in your life with us here on Fuel Your Legacy. It's just incredible. I'm curious, if you were to focus on, let's say somebody's just sat down with you, they're in a coffee shop, they got 5 minutes, and they ask you this question: what is the one habit, mindset, or behavior that you've used most consistently to create your meaningful legacy?
I feel as though the first step for all of us, is self-awareness. One of the things that I am committed to, and I keep saying this, I guess, in different ways, not being a victim in my own life. And so if something's happening to me, and I'm just talking about somebody cutting me off in traffic, or making me feel bad about, yelling at me for something, and not paying attention on the road, whatever, is what is going on for me? What do I need to get out of this experience so that I am not a victim to it? And that comes from self-awareness. So when do I get triggered? We humans are autonomic in our responses, right? Something happens and we tell ourselves a story, and it's usually influenced, or it comes from something that happened in our past. This person doesn't love me, or I'm not lovable, or I was, criticized as a child, so I'm constantly feeling criticized. We tell ourselves these stories about what's happening instead of recognizing exactly what's happening. We don't see it. And it's that bridge to self-awareness that allows us to get free from those past triggers and be able to take action from a place of just really what's happening right now. And then it becomes agnostic. I talk about that in my book, about how I talk about becoming a storm warrior. And what does that mean? And, traditional warriors, we think of them, they're fighters, they have a cause, they're defending their community or their way of life. But then something comes along, like a Category 5 hurricane, or fires that we have out here in California, or the things that we cannot control, death in the family, a business falling apart or something. And then we're victims again. We're no longer warriors. What does it take to be a storm warrior? And the starting point is self-awareness. I am vulnerable to things I cannot control, and there's so little in the world that I can control. I better stay so aware of myself that stays steady no matter what's happening around me. That is one of the cornerstones of being a storm warrior.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I've been doing this podcast for over a year, and I don't think anybody has brought that up. It's one of my, if you asked me, that would be my answer as well. In fact, I'm in the process of creating a book and a journal that kind of tells the story of why it's important and what my first, most deepest emotional experience was in my life that I can remember. And then I ask myself 4 questions, which are really to assist in self-awareness. But first question is, what are the facts? Remove all emotion from it. What are the facts about what happened factually? Oh, the storm came, roof is gone, I'm alive, I'm breathing, whatever, right? What are the facts about this? Second, how do those facts make me feel? And when I'm doing this for myself, I go into all of the dark, painful, ugly emotions, and also all of the light emotions. Like, what does this situation, how does it make me feel? Then what might also be true? And that question has changed many, many lives. It's just asking him, well, what could also be true if I look at it from a different perspective, or from somebody else's, if I put myself in somebody else's shoes in that conversation when I thought I was offended, but ask what might also be true. And then the last question is, well, what am I grateful for? What did I learn from it? And how am I going to apply it to my life? And
I love the questions.
yeah, those. So I'm creating a journal because every day when I journal, if you read my journal, you see every day of my life is I'm basically walking through facts, feelings. What am I grateful for? Well, facts, feelings. What could also be true in the different circumstances in my life? What could make my life better? Because I'm reprogramming all of these deep beneficial moments. I always tell my clients I'm going to ask you this because because you've had a lot of these, right? If we were to take all of the time that you actually were feeling these deep, deep emotionally jarring moments, all of the time, and added it up together so far in your life, how many hours worth of those micro moments do you think you have in your life so far?
Oh, I was going to say half my life, a quarter? It's probably a large percentage, more than 10% of my waking hours, right?
So I would disagree with you.
Okay, good.
And here's why. I think that what happens just from studying psychology, because I came from neuropsychology, right? So studying psychology, we have these initial shocks, right? And they really are like 2 to 3 seconds long, of where we're feeling this deep abandonment, deep pain, these deep, deep emotions. And then we switch into the fight or flight response. So we only have the actual moment, and then our body naturally switches into fight or flight. And those moments, if we added them up across our whole entire life, I bet for the average 40-year-old, and I don't know how old you are, so I'm not saying you're 40, but for the average 40-year-old, 50-year-old, I bet they have less than an hour's worth of those micro moments in their life. But when I'm talking to my clients, I say, I'm going to be really generous and say you have a total of 24 hours if you added all of them up consecutively. And those deep emotional moments are what are dictating how you live your life and how you perceive your life. Now, Christine, you've chosen to turn all of those deep moments into something that works for you, which is phenomenal. And what I think adds to self-awareness. But there's a lot of people who they have a few of these deep emotional moments where they were made fun of as a child, where their parents told them they weren't worth it, whatever happened. And they're still allowing that 1 or 2 moments where they had that deep betrayal, and it's dictating how they live their life.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I've been that person in my past, for sure, not having any understanding that I was, really mad at my parents or so-and-so, whatever, ex-boyfriend or something. And, one of the things that I think is an easy tool to start, is not new. I like Don Miguel has it as one of his 4 agreements. And, I find new layers in this conversation about not taking things personally. Mm-hmm. If the very first threshold, forget having to figure out where did this start in my childhood, right? Or when was I not given enough love? Or when was I criticized? But just to be able to say, maybe this is not about me, not taking, is this personal? Am I taking it personally? And starting to develop a discipline around that might be a preliminary first step to digging deeper than that. You know, it frees you up to start making the inquiry, but it's a first, threshold to cross.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. So I love this conversation. We're not quite done, but we're definitely winding down. I'm curious, how can people get in touch with you if they want to work with you? If they're sitting there thinking, man, I've got a business, I could definitely use some help, or just a life that they could use some help with, right? How do they get in touch with you? And what does that look like if they were to sit down and work with you, or work through some online programs? What does a working relationship with Christine look like?
Well, my website, christineperakis.com, we're going to have that on a link on the available, hopefully.
Uh-huh.
And so my website, christineperakis.com, shows my offerings. You can also find my book. My first book on Amazon is The Entrepreneur's Essential Roadmap, Taking Your Business from Zero to Seven Figures in Record Time. That book is available as an entry point to interacting. And I have an online business advisory system that is linked on my website at businessbreakthroughpro.com. And that's a $297 a month and $29.97 monthly, 12-month subscription, the online business advisory. And if you're one of Sam's listeners, you can reach out to me and I will give you a huge discount and make that a $97 a month program for you, or $9.97, accessible for 12 months, that puts all of the tools, strategies, tactics, and done for you resources into your hands as a small business owner to be able to grow any business from 0 to 7 figures in record time.
Yeah, that is incredible, guys. I don't know if you realize that. That's like a third of the cost. So she's giving you a 60 some odd percent discount to get access to somebody who's done it with over 10 different companies, created 7 figures. And you can have access to that type of mentorship and coaching for so little. Especially after what we talked about earlier, right? It's not about what she thinks her program's worth. She could charge you $100,000 and it'd be worth it because she's going to help you make $1 million, right? It's not about that. It's about, what do you think you're worth and how much are you willing to put out to actually help yourself grow? So I love that. Thank you so much for that. Now we're going to go into these last 2 sections. Now these are going to be a surprise for you about how to answer these. So it's exciting. No, it is. I love this. I love this part of the show. So the next section is called Legacy on Rapid Fire. So what we're going to do is I'm going to ask you 5 questions, and we're looking for 1 word to 1 sentence answers. Now, if you give a 1-word answer on the first question, then I'm going to ask you to clarify it. Okay? Because for a while everybody was answering the same thing. I'm like, okay, we need more specifics here. Okay. So, you ready for this?
I'm ready. I hate tests. I'm nervous already.
Oh yeah. You're going to fail this one. No, it'll be great. So, first question is, what do you believe is holding you back from reaching the next level of your legacy?
Believing it's possible.
Okay. See, that was good. That's a good answer. What do you believe the hardest thing you've ever accomplished has been?
Growing a multi-million-dollar business and running a big team of people that I was completely unprepared for.
Awesome. What is the greatest success at this point in your life?
Running a multi-million-dollar business and managing a huge team. No, being able to turn the most traumatic experiences of my life into something that hopefully will help others be able to weather their own storms in life and business.
Yeah, that's so cool, man. I love it when the greatest successes are about helping others and giving it back. So what's one more secret you believe contributes to your success?
Never giving up.
Amen to that. And then what are a few books that you would recommend to the Fuel Your Legacy audience?
Well, I'm a huge, huge fan of the book Scaling Up, and I draw from that book for some of my intensive workshops and one-on-one type of work with small business owners. Vern Harnish's Scaling Up. And I love this book. I actually discovered it only about a year ago through a mentor called Eknath Eswaran, and it's called Take Your Time. And the book was written in the late 60s, and I think if he were alive today, it would be only augmented. And the idea for each of us to slow down. The world is going so fast. We're getting inundated with so much information all the time. We can barely sit still without picking up a phone. I'm guilty of it myself. And learning how to slow everything down will lead us to wherever we need to go far better, far faster, far more efficiently if we can just take our time.
I need to work on that too. So I'm going to have to go check that book out and give it a nice read.
It's a short read, but so beautiful and well worth it.
Cool. Okay, here's my favorite. This is why I save it for last. This is my favorite question. It's what I ask all of my clients. I believe it's the foundation and beginning of all the work that I can help somebody do. And I think if you're not already asking this to your clients, Christine, you're gonna want to start. I sincerely believe that. So we're gonna pretend that you've died. You're dead. Okay. Are you okay with that? I know it's almost happened to you a few times. So
right. I no longer have a death wish, so you don't have to kill me yet.
Yeah. No, we're going to pretend you're dead, and that 6 generations from now, so we're talking like great, 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 great grandchildren, you have the opportunity to come back and just kind of listen in on a conversation that they're having around the dinner table about your life. Okay, about your legacy. What do you want your great, 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 great grandchildren to be saying about what your life meant and how you contributed 6 generations from now?
I will believe and hope that people will have experience for themselves through an undying belief, the relenting pursuit of success that I enabled for them.
I want everybody who's listening to my podcast to recognize one thing about what she just said, because I love it. You are the only person that I can recollect right now that has not said, I hope they say this, or I think they would be saying this, but they will be saying this, and just stating it as fact and as if it's already happening. I love that.
Wow, I didn't even plan that. I thank you for that reflection. I'm honored. It just came out, just being with it for a minute. You're an awesome questioner, interviewer. These are great questions. Very thought-provoking.
Well, that's my goal. I just think that that question answers so much about who we are and what we want in the long run time of things. That's the legacy that we're going to be building. That's the legacy that we're going to be creating. And it makes clarity. It creates clarity out of every decision that we make in life, from how we spend time with our family, business, our money, where we're spending it, where we're saving it. When we start thinking, well, how do I want to be remembered? Very, very quickly, it ironically shifts the focus off of us and onto how did I contribute to society, and what value am I adding to society? And I think that is kind of the purpose of the question, really. What is your legacy? What do you want your legacy to be 6 generations from now, not when you're 80 and still kicking it?
Yeah, that's beautiful. Very beautiful. Thank you so much for that. What a beautiful bookend, too, for this conversation.
100% agree. Well, thank you so much, Christine. I'm going to let you go. But this is why we do the Fuel Your Legacy podcast, is to bring incredible people like yourself on and share your expertise with the world. And I'm just honored that you were able to take the time and be on this show. I'm excited to read your book, and I definitely will have no problem doing a book review after I've read it.
Well, thank you so much, Sam. You have an amazing legacy yourself in this work that you're doing for people. urge everyone here to check out your website and really dig into figuring out what your legacy is. Make your life worth living and let Sam be your guide. It's an amazing work that you do. Thank you so much for having this conversation with me, including me in your program.
Totally welcome. And we will catch you guys next time on Fuel Your Legacy. Thanks for joining us. If what you heard today resonates with you, please like, comment, and share on social media. Tag me. And if you do give me a shout out, I'll give you a shout out on the next episode. Thanks to all of those who've left a review. It helps spread the message of what it takes to build a legacy that lasts. And we'll catch you next time on Fuel Your Legacy.